All right, guys, we all went to school, and today I have for you a professor in beer and beer pairing from Brazil. Welcome, Doug Merlo. How are you doing?
Hi, Dieter. I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for to invite me to this interview. It's always a pleasure to talk about beer culture, and mix these two worlds, Brazil and Belgium.
Yeah. Cool, cool. How long are you active in the beer scene, and how did it started?
I lived in Italy for 8 years, so I learned about beer and cocktails and mixology there, and I work on this with this stuff there. And I am back to Brazil in the end of 2012. So
Hmm.
I am here in Brazil 8 years ago, and I start to work hardly with beer and mixology here in Brazil. So since I back here, I start to do some consults, so some consultants and in breweries and restaurants, and in along the time was passing, I was inviting to uh, be teacher in some schools here in Brazil. We have really good schools, beer schools here in Brazil, and now I work with beer and in all the spheres in the beer pairing, beer cocktails, because now is a trend in the world. Beer cocktails mix the world of mixology with beer, and I'm starting to write a book about this theme, and so beer pairing, beer cocktails, and I work a lot of two things: cons- uh, beer tasting, so some works with brewers who wants to uh, identify some problems in the beer. So they send the beers to me, and I taste them, and I say, oh, this is not this the beer have this problem, these are flavors. Oh, these, for example, these hops or these malts don't fit very well on this style. So some analysis sensorial consultants in the breweries, and I work a lot with, and I have a um, uh, oh, I forget this in the English name, but okay. I have every year I do two travels with peoples to Europe to visit some brewers. The name is Beer
Okay.
Expedition. So I always in the first in in the end of February, in the end of January, start of February, we go to Belgium. We pass 10 days in Belgium, visit breweries like Driefonteinen, Cantillon, Brasserie de Cazeux, Brasserie de Blogy, Rodenbach. We go to Cohen in the Idverzet, and we do a lot of good trips in Belgium, visit these breweries. I bring with me 30 peoples, 30 persons to visit these places. And we go to the Bruges Beer Festival too. Is because we go on the starts of February, because the Bruges Beer Festival is always in the first weekend of February. And this is my main work now, always with beer and in all spheres. So
Yeah.
pairing, cocktails, travels, and teaching. And now, uh, 1 year ago, I start to work with my second passion, and my second passion is coffee. I
Uh,
open a micro roastery here in South Brazil. I am from South Brazil. In the city name is Blumenau. Is the beer national capital here in Brazil. And 1 year ago, I start to roast coffee. I have this micro roastery. Name is Blumenau Coffee Roasters.
okay. And you started with the scientific academic background as a bioengineer or something, or you come from a total different background?
Totally different background, Dieter. Well, it's still a science, sensorial analysis. So I work a lot with sensorial analysis. I am graduating in administration, so it's not what to do with beers and chemical and something like that. So my beer passion starts in 2007, so more than 13 years ago, and I study a lot of beers, and I study a lot of analysis, sensorial analysis, and brewing. So I am a brewing too. I am home brewing. I do beer brewing consultants in the breweries. I have a lot of beers in a lot of breweries here in Brazil because they call me to do go there to design some style and brew in them. So my background is administration, it's not chemical or something like that.
And that, to go a little back to the beginning in Brazil, around 2007, how is Brazil a wine and beer country and also some a liquor country, or what is the typical Brazilian thing? Is it wine? Is it beer? Is it even or?
In Brazil, we are a beer consumers, but mainstream beers. So you can know Brahma is from Brazil, and now is when the big market in Brazil, the big um, industry beer industry in Brazil, uh, they buy the big industry in Belgium. So Interfood, Interbrow with Ambev, they mix it in AB InBev. So there are national beer. Brahma is come to Europe, and your national beer is Stella Artois comes to Brazil. And Brazil is always a beer market, but mainstreams. And
Yeah,
we have our national spirit is cachaça. You know
yeah,
cachaça?
yeah.
Yes.
That's a
So
very strong smelling plant.
yes, is made with the cane from the juice of cane sugar cane, and they ferment it and they distill it. So cachaça is our Brazilian spirit. We do a famous cocktail here in Brazil, caipirinha, with cachaça, and but wine in Brazil, the wine in Brazil start to come up and grow up in the beginning of 19th. So in South Brazil, here we are where I am in South Brazil,
Yeah.
in the highest in the hills, they plant and cultivate a lot of good grapes. So we have a really good cultivars, but we don't are a wine market because we are not wine market because all this wine culture starts here in Brazil with the immigrants from Europe, from Italy. We have a lot of immigrants from Italy. My grandfather was one of that. So we have a lot of Europe immigrants from Italy, Germany, is because here in South Brazil we have a lot of a really huge beer scene from Germany. So
Okay.
the microbrewers here in Brazil, they start to brew in the 2000 and in the end of 99 and begun and start to 2000, and all this they start to brew German styles. They start to brew
Okay.
Pilsners and Weizens and wheat beers from Germany, from Bavaria. And they put in the label like a really important thing. This beer is made by Heinzgebot. So they are proud to in the time to brew beers with and put in the label here in Brazil Heinzgebot. So to the people here in Brazil, they don't know what in that time what is the Heinzgebot. So what is purity law? So
Yeah.
they start with this, and one of the first microbreweries in Brazil was founded here in Blumenau, and then now is from Heineken. Heineken was bought 10 years ago, and the name is Eisenbahn.
Ah, yeah.
So they start to brew here in Brazil, microbrewery here in Blumenau, Weizenbier, Dunkel, and Pilsners. So German styles.
Yeah. Okay.
And the time goes up, the time is passing. They start to old microbreweries, craft beers, and they start to do some Belgian beers, some English beers, American beers. But the scene here in Brazil start in the south with German styles because we are our colonizators is from Germany. They are
Yeah.
from Germany. Was from Germany.
And how do you see the evolution from 2007 until now? It of course you had way more craft brewers, but style-wise, did Brazil picked up the European and American styles, or did it in the beginning did its own way?
No, they imitated European ones and American, more Europeans. After
Mm.
5 or 8 years, uh, um, after the Brazilian craft beer starts, they starts to do some American styles or some English styles, but they start with Germans, Europeans, German ones. And the thing is, we don't have in that time, we don't have our beer or our style or our own personality to do the beer styles. I remember one craft beer here from São Paulo in a city called Ribeirão Preto. They in that time is one of the first craft beers in Brazil. In that time, they start to do something with the Brazilian originality, with some Brazilian originality. For example, all the beers in the ingredients they put a Brazilian original ingredient. For example, Brazil is one of is the most the biggest coffee producer, and we are now for 2 years from now we are the biggest consumers of coffee consumers. So I remember in that time this brewery named Colorado today is Colorado is Ambev, a BIMBEV, they bought these two, and this beer too. They start to, for example, do a porter with coffee, and another beer they made with rapadura. Rapadura is a kind of sugar from sugar cane, but very they boil it the sugar cane juice for hours, and they put more sugar for hours, more sugar, and become a stone. And this stone you can break and eat like a piece of cake, but very hard. And they start to make beer with this candy from sugar cane. And I remember that. I remember some fruits, some Brazilian typical Amazonic fruits. So I remember Colorado Brewery doing this like 15 years ago. And now, from 5 years from now, finally the craft breweries in Brazil, they start to look for this. Oh, we are in Brazil. We are a lot of tropical fruits. Only we
Yeah.
have Amazonic fruits from Amazonia, man. We have a lot of roots, a lot of spices only from here. And the most trend now, we have a lot of exotic woods. We have one of now begins famous woods, Brazilian woods, call it, I don't know if you heard about it, amburana. Amburana is an exotic fruit. They typically and historically use it to aged cachaça. It's a very spicy wood, and the U.S. market, the American market now, they are crazy for this wood. So American market, they are crazy for everything was new. So from 5 years to now, the Brazilian breweries, the Brazilian craft breweries, they look at for this. Wow, we have a lot of things here with anybody in the world have it. So damn it, we need to use it.
In Brazil, the craft brewers in Brazil, most of it is for the local market, I assume, and only the bigger ones export outside Brazil, or how is that in the market?
The craft beers in Brazil is they are very small, man. Yeah, you have some medium productions, but they mostly for 90% they are very small, so they don't export. I remember now like two or three craft breweries that import beers from to Europe or United States. But no, the most consumer is local, and now we have they start to have a lot of brew pubs. So if you want to
Ah,
drink
yeah.
that beer, you must to go in that place to drink because they don't put in the bottle, they put in barrels
Yeah.
to to send to other states. So yes, now in Brazil for 2 or 3 years from now start to have more brew pubs than breweries. And one of the most important thing is, we are in Brazil. We are a tropical country. Is a lot of we have a lot of hot here. It's a warm, very warm in the most part of the year. Like we have the medium degrees up the 28, 30 degrees. We have like average like 8 months with the average in 28 or 30 degrees and up. So we are Brazil, a tropical country. We have a lot of warm here. So for now, for us, it's very difficult. For example, bottle conditioned beers and and leave the beer in or not or for example put CO2 in the tank to forced carbonation in the beer to put in the market or in the beer shops, and it's very hot. So here in Brazil we have the users to pasteurize the beers only
Yeah.
in bottles. Okay, if you put in keg, if the is not pasteurized but is to be consumed uh, in 3 months, or and if the craft brewers put in the keg, this keg must to be consumed in the brewery, in the beer tap room or brew pub, or if they send to other pubs are very close to the brewery. So if they
Okay.
put in the keg and don't pasteurize the beer, for example, they don't send here from Blumenau to São Paulo, for example. It's like 1,000 kilometers from here. It's very long. You must
Yeah.
remember Brazil is a continental country, man. We are very big. So my province, my state is bigger than Belgium. For you understand. So we are very big, we are very hot, and for us, don't pasteurize the beer is a problem. So yes, we have some craft brewers who start to bottle condition the beers, make some tests, maybe to in the future stop with the pasteurization in the bottle. But for now, we have our weather is difficult to not
Yeah.
pasteurize the beer.
I understood. You also mentioned food pairings. How did that came? What do you in Belgium? We have, I think, the traditional things. We pair chocolate, we pair sausages and cheese. Is it in Brazil the same?
Yes, we in Brazil here we have a good cheese scene too. We have a good chocolate scene too. But here in Brazil, uh, we have a kind of finger food names comida de boteco. It's like finger foods from the pub. Typical things from Brazil. Like in Brazil we eat a lot of meat. So pork and cow and birds. So the most pairing is with this kind of meats, and we have a lot of spices, a lot of um, things we put in the sauces, you know. So we have a strong sauces, but not hot. We don't eat a lot
Yeah.
of hot sauces. Yes, it's more spicy, but different spices. Spices
Okay, cool.
who spicy with different smells and different tastes, but not hot, not spicy in the hot way. It's spicy with flavor and intensity and complexity. Yes, if you go to North Brazil, you can start to have some hot spices, but in the commonly in the most of parts is only spice different spices, but not hot.
Yeah. What are business-wise more? What are the challenges that brewers and pub owners have in Brazil? What are the challenges in order for this market to keep growing?
Yes, one of the most challenges is that what just told you is quality beer, pasteurized one. So they are start and they are here in Brazil. We have some breweries who start to study about bottle conditioning in the high temperatures because we are in high temperatures here. We are not in Europe or in the United States or something like that.
Yeah.
And this is one thing where all our hops are imported. So talking about raw materials, we have hops only 100% imported. Now we start to, to growing up our own hops. We have some
Yeah.
really good new hops growers here in Brazil. And here near from Blumenau, we have two or three really good ones. So we are start to do that. But now, for now, all the hops are important. So we are very, we're very, we are very concerned about quality of these hops, quality of imported raw materials for
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. There wasn't yet already a hop scene in Brazil. No.
No, no. Yes, in the past, yes, but the this hop scene is like a 100% direction with to the pharmacy market.
Oh yeah.
You
Yes.
know, hope is very used in the pharmacy market. So to relax, you know, in the medicals to relax, uh, to a lot of medications. Yeah, they put hope there. So in Brazil, years ago, yes, we have studies make it by our some university here in South Brazil, but all the hops, all these studies, and was directionally to the pharmacy industry.
Yeah. Yeah. What about yeast strains? Are Brazilian craft brewers busy with cultivating a lot of their own yeast, or is that more like the traditional American European yeast strains you guys use?
Yes, for I think 5 or 6 years to now, we are a really good yeast producer here. But it's not new yeast. Is copy from the copies from the traditional yeast for Belgian yeast, German yeast, in English yeast, and American yeast. So we have now 3 or 4 laboratories here in Blumenau, here in Brazil, who work with really good yeast, with really fresh and good yeast. But the measure of them is copies from the
Yeah.
European or American ones. But the most important thing is we have these laboratories who can produce fresh yeast from the craft beer market here. Yes,
Yeah.
some breweries still use some yeast from fermenters, for example. For example, US 05 is one of the most neutral yeast using in the world. So yeah, we use a lot of US 05 here. But for the Belgian ones, for example, we use a lot of. For example, I think 19% or 95% from the Belgian is from Brazil. It's from laboratories from here. So it's
Okay.
very very good because we can have fresh yeast. In the beginnings, like 10 or 15 years ago, all the yeast was imported. So yes, only fermentis and I don't remember fermentis, the dry ones. Fermentis, I don't remember the another one, but
Yeah.
for it and don't arrive in that time. Don't coming white labs and white yeast. So the liquid ones don't arrive. Start to arrive in 10 years ago, but very very expensive and maybe with not with good quality because the logistic from the United States, from Brazil, is very hard. And so 6 or 8 years ago, these laboratories in Brazil start to see this. Oh, we have a really good craft scene here in Brazil from breweries and from home brewers. So a lot of home brews in Brazil, a
Okay.
lot of.
Yeah, to
And
begin on that, how is the homebrew scene in Brazil? Is it like with contests? It's professionalized. Is it with an awarding system also?
Yes, it's very. We have a lot of homebrewers here. Yeah, a lot of homebrew contests here. For example, and we have an association in Brazil who for the homebrewers to the homebrewers. The name is Acerva. The craft brewers no the craft brewers association and all the oh, wait a second, please. Wait a second,
Yeah,
Dieter.
no problem. So Doc is now thinking on something.
Sorry. No. Is that something here in the? Um, so yes, we have a lot of contests here, and we have this association, and each state here in Brazil have the association. For example, yeah,
Okay.
my state name is Santa Catarina. So here we have a Serva Santa Catarina, and there are São Paulo is a state. So there is a Serva São Paulo. So
Yeah.
each state have his own association, and we have a central one called a Serva Brasil, and all these associations from the states uh, they represent a Serva Brasil. So each state, each Acerva association, make their own concourse, their own contest from the homebrews from that states, and sometimes they have region contests. For example,
Ah, yeah, yeah.
Salt Brazil is composed from three states: Rio Grande do Sul, Santa Catarina, and Paraná, which they all are servers, a server here, a server here, a server here, and they make the Brazilian Salt contest with only these three homebrewers from these three states. So they and they have this kind of contest too. And one time per year we have a national competition. It's very, very. Our last national competition, Dieter, is most than 1,000 beers, man. Is a lot of beers
Ah.
from homebrew scene.
Are there any styles that you say now in Brazil is more common to do? Is Brazil following the American and European styles like the big stouts, the IPAs? Is that like the same trends?
Yes, we follow the same trends. More American than European, but yes, two worlds. Yeah, we are in the same way here. But the good thing is the homebrews is open the eyes to our fruits, our woods, our spices too. It's not only the commercials craft beers. home brews too. So a lot of home brews send me the beers. Oh, no, can you taste it? I put guava. I put this spice. I put this wood. So that's good. That's very good.
Yeah. Um, yeah, now you're a professor and you teach also. How did that came? You professionalized yourself in beer teaching and certification. Is it like on a state university you teach now, or is it evening school for adults? What do we have to think about that?
Yeah. I in Brazil I teaching for four institutions. I teach it for Escola Superior de Cerveja e Malte is the most biggest beer school in South America. It's
Mm-hmm.
very large. And it is here in Blumenau. And I teach it for Instituto Cerveja Brasil, is another beer institute in São Paulo, and all they are Escola Superior de Cerveja e Malte is the most bigger in South America, the first one. They are university too. So yes,
Yeah.
the Brazilian Beer Institute, Instituto Cerveja Brasil, they are a professional institute. And
Yeah.
I work to Senai. Senai is an institution in all Brazil, and they teaching for the persons who want to work in the industry. So the beer market is an industry. So I teach from them too, and I teach for the another institute name is Senac.
Mm-hmm.
Is they is teaching for the persons who wants to work in the commercial market in Brazil, not
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for example, in this commercial school I teach beer pairing, beer styles, beer culture, beer scene to the persons who want to go to work in the pubs, in the beer shops, and the brew shops. And in Senai, that school for the industry in Brazil, there I teach about beer brewing process, and most of them is the brewing process.
Yeah, and yeah, to hook in a bit on that, the beer cocktails they are slightly now coming to Europe. Um, how do you start with that? Is it like you start mixing and see what sticks and what is good, or is there like more a good way to do it? Like you first make a base, you mix it with this. These are the do's and these are the don'ts.
Yes, my first formation is mixologist. When I was in Italy for 8 years, I studied mixology there, and
Mm-hmm.
I work with there. And when I do my first beer sommelier course in Italy, I after the course, the president from the institution, the name is uh, uh, Beer Tasting Association, Italian Beer Tasting Association.
Mm-hmm.
When I finish the course, the president comes to me and say and said, Douglas, you want to teach about beer cocktails here because we don't have any class from
Yeah.
about this team, and you are a mixologist now. You are a sommelier too, so you want to talk about this? Oh yeah. So I started to teach in Italy about when I was there about this team, and the tip I do for everyone who wants to start to make cocktails with beer, start with the substitution. For example, one of the most in practice easy way to do this is, for example, if you have some cocktail with juice, think to change that juice from a fruit beer, from a beer with that kind of fruit. For example, one of my favorite cocktails I start I do my own is my author cocktail is I pick up the Cosmopolitan, for example,
Mm-hmm.
Cosmopolitan, and I substitute the cranberry juice for a creek one, for a Blambic creek, for example. And that way I don't put the lemon juice, because in the Cosmopolitan you put a squeeze of lemon juice, and I don't put there because the Lambic one is already have a low
Yeah.
pH. And if I bring the creek, for example, I really like to do my Cosmo Creek with I like a lot of mariage parfait bon creek.
Yes.
And I yes, and I really like that. I tried with Rifontaine, Cantillon, but I think Mariage Parfait Bone Creek, Mariage Parfait Creek, not the Creek Bone. Huh?
Huh?
I I I I feel there in that beer a really good mix about acidity and fruity, because when I when I substituted the cranberry juice with that creek, the component fruit was changed, but the low pH and the sourness and the citrus from the red fruit still there. So my tip is, if you want to start to do some beer cocktails, start to substitute with substitution from juices, beer, of course, cocktails with juices. Start to substitution with the juicy from the beer with the beer with juice.
Yeah.
With the beer with that fruit.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That's clear.
That's a good tip.
Yeah. And is beer cocktails quite common to do in Brazil then? I assume it's way more popular there than it is already in Belgium now.
No, no. Here in Brazil, we are very young and very young and about beer cocktails. We don't have any books about there, any documents, any. The only documents about beer cocktails it was wrote by me and in the magazine here in Brazil. 6 pages of that magazine about beer cocktails. So we have a lot of things to talk about that. And I put five cocktails in the magazine if someone wants to try to do in their own home. Another good cocktail is I mixed the Negroni. So Negroni is one third from Martini Rosso, one-third from Campari, and one-third of gin. I took away the gin. I changed Martini Rosso for Martini Rosato. Martini Rosato is still red, but more sweety and more smoothed. So one-third of Martini Rosato, one-third of Campari, and took away the gin, and I put a Trappist double. I really like Vestimal double in this cocktail. So try Dieter. One part of Martini Rosato, one part of Campari, and one part of double. One Trappist or
Cool.
what else? And put a slice of orange, a lot of ice. You must have a whiskey glass with full of ice, and you do the cocktail there. And you stir with a spoon, put a slice of orange, and when you put the Campari Martini, when you put the beer is the last thing. When you put the beer, put smoothly and nicely, because you want gas. You don't want to lost the gas carbonic, the CO2. So put slightly, and with the spoon you stir slightly, and put your orange and drink, man. It's amazing aperitif drink.
Yeah. And you're now writing on a book about beer cocktails, I assume.
Yes, now I'm
Yeah.
writing a book about homebrew because here in Brazil we don't have books writing from Brazilian to Brazilians. You have only books from United States
Yeah.
or books, traduced books So I'm writing now this project about home brewing, and my second book will be about beer cocktails. I have a third book in my mind about, talking about cheese pairing, and I have another book in my mind talking about making beers with coffee.
Cool. But the reason you want to write it in a book, never thought of doing more like, let's say, make short videos of 10 minutes, how to demonstrate how to make it, and put that in Portuguese or Spanish and English online?
I'm not good with videos, man. I'm
Okay.
not good with the videos.
Yeah. Okay. Final question, Doc, for you as a professor. If there is a definition of craft beer, what is it?
Craft beer is passion. Craft beer, for me, beer is a way of art. You know, who brewing a beer is art is an artist because this person puts all his love, all his knowledge, all his passion, and all he has a good things he puts in the beer. So craft beer for me, after all, is passion, love, and art. I'm a little bit against the that that person who was extremist about beer. You know, no, craft beer is only beer is not pasteurized. Man, that's a really, for me, is a shit because for example, if you come to Brazil, if you come to Brazil, Dita, I will be your guest, your cicerone. You will be my guest, and I will be your cicerone, and I will take you in a brewery near from here, founded in 1090 1092, so
Yeah.
more than 100 years, and they make beer with directly fire with wood. They
Oh,
make
cool.
um, cool the wort
Yeah.
with a cooking. They fermented the beers in the barrels, wood barrels, and after that they pasteurize the beer because
Yes.
100 years ago his grandpa told him, oh, if you want, if you don't want exploding bottles, you need to pasteurize it. So
Uh,
they make beer like 20 years ago, like 200 years ago, like in the Lambics way, but he
yeah,
pasteurized it.
yeah.
And the beer is for the extremist persons from the beer world. Oh, he don't is more at craft because he pasteurized. Then, man, he make beers like in medieval
Uh,
years, in
yes, yes.
the iron years. So for me, beer is passion, is love, is a art. If you put your passion, your love, and your uh, way you in your way you live your life in the beer, for me, is that.
Okay, Doug Merlo, thanks for this talk very much, and keep good. When you're next time in Belgium, let me know, and then we're gonna drink some.
Yes, of course, of course.
All right. See you, man.
See you. Thank you, Dieter. See you soon,
Yep.
my friend.